Hey guys, Bearded Nate. In this video, we're going to take a look at all of the new Generation 9 Pokemon and their shiny forms. We're going to be rating them from 1 to 10, 1 being the absolute shittest shiny sprite you've ever seen. I'm looking at you, Tandemouse, all the way up to 10 being mwah, absolute perfect. So, without further ado, let's not waste any more time and let's take a look at those shinies. Okay, so starting off as normal with the starters, we're starting off with Sprigatito, and between you and me, I am a complete and utter simp for green shinies. I know a lot of people like to chase the gold ones or the blue ones, but Sprigatito having this really nice, I don't know what to call it. Turquoise? It's not quite turquoise, but the difference in this shiny is really nice. It's not a 10 out of 10, but I think Sprigatito starting off strong with a 7 out of 10 on her shiny. Moving on, straight on to Sprigatito's evolution, we've got Florigato. Again, I'm loving the green shiny here. Enough of a change to show a difference for sure. And I'm assuming it's a yo-yo that Florigato has, right? Changing from that nice pink into a deep purple. Absolutely love the Florigato shiny. I'm going to give this, along with the Sprigatito, a nice 7 out of 10. Then we move on to Meowscarada. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Again, the shiny isn't too bad. I'd actually go ahead and say that I prefer the Sprigatito shiny compared to the Meowscarada. So I'm going to drop my rate from 7 to 6 for Meowscarada, but still a strong shiny, one that you can definitely see the difference on. We then move on to the starter of my choice, and that is Fuecoco, going from that red to a nice soft pastel pink. Not great, not my favourite shiny, I must admit, but still enough of a change, as with the Sprigatito, to actually know that you're looking at a shiny. I'm going to give Fuecoco shiny probably a 6, not as quite as high as the Sprigatito because I love those green shinies, but enough of a change to make a decent impact. We have Crocalor. This is Fuecoco's evolution. I'm just not feeling it. I feel like the sombrero, I think it is, on top of his head with the fire egg, that could have definitely have changed. I think there is ever so slightly a pixel or two change in its color, but not enough. I'm going to give Crocalor a 5 out of 10. Moving on to Skelligurge. The shiny is quite a big improvement from the Fuecoco. A nice vibrant pink colour for this shiny. I'm going to give Skelligurge, I'm not going to go higher than a 7. I'm going to give Skelligurge a 7 out of 10. It could have been more. It's really hard not to compare the shiny of Charizard, you know, going from that orange to the black shiny of Charizard. Skelligurge doesn't quite hit that mark for me. Moving on to our final starter of the Paldean region, we have Quaxly, and really disappointed in this shiny. Kind of reminds me of Squirtle. Squirtle is a difficult one because whenever you look at Squirtle from the front, it really doesn't look like he changes that much. But then when you turn Squirtle around and you look at that green shell, he definitely is one of the better shinies. Quaxly, unfortunately, just doesn't hit that mark for me. I'm going to give Quaxly a 4 out of 10. There's enough of a difference that you can see it is shiny, but not anywhere near Fuecoco or Sprigatito. Quaxwell, again, this is Quaxly's evolution. I feel like because Quaxwell's original form is a darker blue, there is that definitely more of a difference between his normal and his shiny form. So from a 4, I'll bump Quaxwell up to a 5 out of 10. And here we go. So this is the final evolution of Quaxly. Quaquaval. I don't think I've ever said this Pokemon's name out loud. Quaquaval. Not my favourite Pokemon. I wish it would just stop fucking dancing, if I'm honest. The shiny is a lot different, as well as the Quaxquell, the mid-evolution. So again, I'll probably give this a 6. It is a decent shiny, definitely one that stands out, but just not my favourite Pokemon, so I don't want to give it too much of a high score. Now, the starters are done. We move on to Lechonk, and if anyone ever says that this shiny is crap, then they need a good punch in the face, because I love the Lechonk shiny. Absolutely making it look like a normal pig. I'm giving Lechonk I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It doesn't quite hit that 10 for me, but a 9 out of 10, a solid shiny for Lechonk. Now we move on to Oinkologne, and Oinkologne, as you know, like Litleo, when it evolves, it has two forms, a male and a female form. This one is, I believe, this is its male form, correct? So again, the shiny change is absolutely fantastic, going from that dark black and grey colour into a nice pink and white colour. Really neat, really making it look like it has that pig coloration. I'm going to give this a 8. It's not quite as good as Lechonk in my opinion, but I absolutely love it. And then if we move over to what I believe is the female form, again going from that greyish black and brown into the white and pink. Again, another 8 out of 10 for me for both the female and male versions. Okay, here we go. We have Tarantula, and guys, this was my first ever shiny in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Complete random encounter. I hadn't even defeated one gym yet, and I saw that red ball of wool. Is it wool or is it kind of spider's web silk in the distance, and I ran straight to it. I love Tarantula's shiny form. The difference going from that white and yellow to the blue and the red, absolutely fantastic. Still not one of the top tier shinies for me, so I will give it a nice solid 8. But yeah, one of my favorite memories from Scarlet and Violet is just seeing this Pokemon in the distance being red. We then move on to Tarantula's evolution. We have got Spidops here, and going from that green and that yellow into the purple and red. Doesn't this Pokemon, his face alone, if you zoom in on his face, he kind of has the resemblance of Dr. Eggman from Sonic, right? That's all I can see. I remember watching a Twitch streamer mention this, and now, ever since they mentioned this, that's all I can see is Dr. Eggman. Shiny is absolutely fantastic going. Any Pokemon that goes from their normal form to their shiny form, and it's a completely different coloration, absolutely fantastic. With Tarantula, I'm going to stick Spidops into the 8 out of 10. It is a solid shiny, but just misses that 9. I don't know. I think purely for the Eggman lookalike. Next up is Nimble the Grasshopper. And I don't know if Cerebee's got this wrong. I wasn't sure. I wasn't aware that Nimble's shiny form was that bright a yellow. I thought it was kind of like a slightly brighter blue. But looking at Cerebee's shiny form, absolutely fantastic. Although these buggers are so small in the game, it's so hard to see them, especially if the shiny form is yellow and it's walking around that grass. They're going to be so difficult to spot. But again, going from that blue to that yellow, Nimble gives me a good 7 out of 10. We then move on to Lokix, and if you're like me, you are sick to death of seeing this Pokemon. The shiny going from a blue and black into that really nice green. This Pokemon just reminds me of something out of like Power Rangers, you know, one of their mech forms. A solid shiny choice, definitely different from its original. I'll probably give this a 7 out of 10 purely because I'm so sick of seeing this Pokemon in every single route. It is a great shiny, just not one of the better ones. Now, this is Pawmi. Pawmi is the electric mouse Pokemon of this generation, the Pika clone that some people call it. And I am so pissed off. I don't know how many times I've done an outbreak on this Pokemon and I can still not get that shiny. But Pawmi is probably one of my top 3 best shiny Pokemon in this game. I'm giving Pawmi a 10 out of 10. I absolutely love the pink and the just the slight blue in its ears. Absolutely fantastic. I love this Pokemon to pieces. A nice 10 out of 10. My first 10 out of 10 for a Pokemon shiny. Into Pawmi's evolution, Pawmo. The shiny, I don't know, it's gone a little bit lighter pink. It's not my favorite. The Pawmi shiny was definitely one of the better ones. I'll probably bring Pawmo down to a 9 out of 10 just because it's not as vibrant as the Pawmi. Into Pawmot, and again the color of that pink has really darkened. It's just so good. This is probably going to be another 10 out of 10 for me. I'm still hunting for that Pawmi, Pawmo, Pawmot shiny in my Violet game, and hopefully one day I will get it. Do I really need to say anything? I think I said in the introduction of this video, this is whoever designed the shiny version of Tandemaus needs to be fired. Like, I just don't get it. Like, I've hunted this and I have the shiny of this Pokemon in Pokemon Violet, and I couldn't even tell it was shiny. I ran into it and it just sparkled, and like literally all I imagine is that The Office meme of Pam with 2 pictures saying, "I don't see the difference." This is utterly shit. It is by far, I could ramble on for the next 10 minutes just saying how fucking shit this Pokemon Shiny is. Mousehold, the exact same. All it looks like this Pokemon is wearing like, what, a jumper, and it goes from blue to, what is that, beige? What the hell happened, Game Freak? Who the hell signed this off? Run over onto Fidough, and I quite like this Shiny. It's not great. I didn't even mark Tandemaus and Mousehold. They're a 0 out of 10. They don't even deserve a 1. 0 out of 10. Onto Fidough. Fidough is great. It goes from that doughy, you know, as its name suggests, that doughy Pokemon, and then it just looks like it's been in the oven for half an hour, and it's got that nice crusty layer over its body. I would give this, it's not the best. I mean, the Shiny stands out. I'd give this a nice 6 out of 10. I do like it, though. On to Fidough's evolution. We've got Dash Bun. Not my favourite Shiny. I'd say quite poor, if I'm honest. In actual fact, if the Pokemon Shiny and its normal form was switched around, that probably would have done a lot better in my opinion. But as for Dash Bun, I'm going to say a 3 out of 10. Not my favourite whatsoever. Here we go. On to Smoliv. I had this Pokemon in my party through my main playthrough. Shiny, it's quite disappointing. All that's really changed is the olive on its head is now black. Quite disappointing. They probably could have done a lot more with this Pokemon. Maybe made the whole thing black, you know, having going from the green olive to the black olive. But for me, this is definitely, I'd say, a 2 out of 10 in my experience. No, not my experience. In my opinion is what I was trying to say. Moving on to Smoliv's evolution, we've got Dolive. Again, the green has got darker, and we have 2 black olives instead of like the yellowy green. But again, a bit better than the Smoliv, so I'd probably bump this guy up to a 3 out of 10. Then we move on to the final evolution of Bolivar. Again, there is a difference, but it's quite poor. I was quite disappointed when I saw this shiny form for the first time. I'm going to stick to a solid 3, not a solid, a quite poor 3 out of 10. Moving on, we have Squawkabilly, and Squawkabilly has 4 different colours. We have the green, blue, yellow, and white. And the only thing that changes is his hair. It goes from black to like a pink colour. Quite disappointing. They could have done a lot more with this, I think. But in my opinion, pretty poor. I'm going to give this a 1 out of 10. Okay, now we have our 3-tier rock Pokemon that we see in practically every evolution. We've got Knackley. It's not great. I think if it's the head around it changed colour and not just the salt of the eyes and the top bit of its head, it probably could have been a bit better. I'd give this a 3 out of 10. You can slightly see the shiny form of this Pokemon when you're running around, but you probably would have to be paying a lot of attention. Moving on to its evolution, Knacklestack. Now, this Pokemon being bigger and there being more of Knacklestack, the shiny is definitely better. I would give Knacklestack a 4 out of 10 just because there's a lot more of it to see the shiny difference. Then we move on to Garganacl, and this is where the shiny form really stands out. The whole thing has practically changed. This, unfortunately, is where Knackley? This is unfortunately where Knackley just lost it on that thing because it's so tiny, there's not much of it. Whereas when you come to Garganacl, absolutely fantastic. All I ever see when I'm looking at this Pokemon is just Minecraft. The shiny form is definitely a 6. A 6 out of 10 in my opinion. Where to even start with Charcadet? When Pokemon revealed its evolution, we had Cerulege and Armor Rouge. They looked outstanding, and every day I wondered what are their shinies going to look like. Then we got Charcadet, still an amazing little kind of like a baby Pokemon in my opinion. And again, they could have done so much with this shiny, and all they've done is changed its eyebrows from red to blue. I mean, again, same with the Tandemaus. Who the hell in Game Freak designed this? You know, who thought, okay, let's bring one of the best Pokemon they've designed in this generation and just update their eyes from red to blue? Who signed this off in Game Freak? Like, they could have made this Pokemon white. You know, a white shiny. Oh, it would have been amazing. But they didn't. All they did was change his eye colour. A 1 out of 10. Absolutely shit. Moving on, we have the evolution Armor Rouge. There's nothing to say here. His eyebrows went from yellow to blue. 1 out of 10. And Cerulege, again, I can't even see. I mean, what is the difference? Okay, his eyes have gone from white to yellow. Pure fucking shit. The biggest disappointment in shiny history. They could have done so much with this Pokemon. Moving on, we then have Tadbulb, and they've gone from a kind of like an orange bottom to a red bottom. This Pokemon is so difficult to see in the wild. I've tried hunting the shiny for this, and it was so difficult. I'm going with a 2 out of 10. Whereas Tadbulb's evolution, Bellibolt, the shiny is phenomenal for this Pokemon. They've gone from that turquoise green into a really bright yellow. This is possibly one of my favourite Pokemon shinies. I'm giving Bellibolt a good 9 out of 10. Wattrel, I was so disappointed in this shiny form. It's gone from that black to... I don't even know what colour to call that. It's just pretty shit. It's not too difficult to spot the difference when hunting for them in the wild, so I will give this a 4 out of 10. It's not great by any means, but you can see a difference. Same with Kilowattrel. Again, the shiny does stand out in the wild, but again, they could have done so much more. Maybe if the shiny and the base colours were swapped around, maybe, I don't know, but I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10, the same as its pre-evolution. Right, now we move on to the second dog family in Paldean region. We've got Mastiff. The shiny is really great. I really like it. I always look out for these Pokemon when I'm playing the game. I haven't managed to get one yet, but in time I'm hoping to have this really great colour change into its shiny form. I'll give this a 6 out of 10. It's not the best, by all means. Let's be honest. It's not the best, but it does have that difference that I love. It's just not one of my favourites. So a good 6 out of 10 for Mastiff. My Bastiff, the evolution, again, they kind of, I don't know, they dropped the nail on this. I don't like this shiny. It's quite, there is a difference, but not much of a difference when you go from its pre-evolution to its shiny. This is quite disappointing. I'm going to drop it from a 6 down to, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. Quite disappointing in my eyes. We then move on to Shroodle, and if you've ever seen Shroodle in the wild, you'll know just how much of a dick this Pokemon is. The amount of times I run into it and I haven't seen it, it drives me up the wall. The shiny change, the main change that you could see in the wild is its eyes go from green to purple, and even then 9 times out of 10 I miss it. I'm giving this shiny a 1 out of 10. Okay, Grafaiai. Now, the shiny definitely is different, so let's not lie there. But what a horrible colour they've given it. This really horrible, grungy green. I mean, they really could have done, I don't know, they could have done a lot of things here with Grafaiai shiny. Really not one of my favourites. I'll give it a 2 out of 10. It shows a difference in the shiny, but they just chose such sickening colours. Okay, into Bramblin, and this Pokemon... I always forget this Pokemon exists. The colour change into its shiny, the green underneath is different, and it has slightly lighter fingers? I don't know. Really disappointing. I'm going to give this Pokemon a 3 out of... No, not even a 3. I'm going to go down to a 2 out of 10 for this shiny. We then have Brambleghast, and it's a lot better. Let's not pretend that it's not better. But again... because of the purple tips, I think this Pokemon is quite hard to see in the wild in its shiny form. I'm going to give it... I'll give this a 3 out of 10. One more than its pre-evolution. Moving on, we have Toedscool, which is like a tentacle, but it's not. It runs. Have you ever seen this Pokemon run around? And the hitbox. Don't get me started on the hitbox for this Pokemon. It's like the Pokemon's here, and I'm over there somewhere, and I still run into this bastard. The shiny going from that kind of like pinky salmon and yellow to a pure white. I quite like it, although, I don't know. There's something about it. It's weird. It is really easy to spot in the wild. I don't know. It just feels like they just took all the colour out of it and just left it at that. I'll give it a 5 because the difference is really nice and it's easy to spot. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. On to Toedscool, the evolution. Now, this is a perfect example of a great shiny difference. Going from that black and the yellow over to the black and the really bright pink. I love this shiny. I'm giving Toedscool a 9 out of 10. Coming up is Clorf, and before I show it, if you haven't seen this shiny, just know every single person that has seen the shiny for Clorf has given it a 10 out of 10, and I am no different. Look at the shiny cloth. Absolutely phenomenal. This is probably one of my top 3 favorite shinies from Paldean. That blue is just absolutely amazing. Why can't every Pokemon have a shiny that's as good as Cloth shiny? Without a doubt, 10 out of 10 for Cloth. Next up, we have Capsicum Kid. And is it just me, or is this game they just introduced so many small Pokemon that it's just so fucking irritating to run into because you can't see him. Capsicum Kid is so small that there is no way you can tell if it's shiny or not. The shiny is nice, but because of its size and how difficult it is to see, I'm knocking this shiny down to a 3 out of 10. We then have Capsicum Kid's evolution. We have Scovillian. The body changes. Why haven't the heads changed? Sure, like, the heads are the most prominent thing about this Pokemon, and they just keep it red and green. It's really strange. I'm not sure why they decided to do that. I'm giving this shiny a 4 out of 10. Okay, we then have another bug Pokemon. This is Relor, a Pokemon I haven't seen that much. The main feature of this Pokemon is obviously that giant turd that it's rolling around. It goes from that brown with some orange and white into a pure gold ball. I have seen a few streamers catch this on live, and it is quite clear that it is a shiny. Not one of my favorites, quite a forgotten Pokemon in my mind. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. We then have Relor's evolution, Rabsca, and again, it's holding this massive pink purple ball, and that shiny doesn't change. Whereas Relor, the ball changed colour, and it was really obvious. Whereas Rabsca, it doesn't change at all. Unless you're really looking for it, to look from that, going from that kind of that turquoisey colour to the gold, it's quite a Pokemon it's quite an obvious miss in my eyes. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10. They really needed to change the ball that Rabsca is holding. On to Flittle, and unless you're really paying attention, you'll miss this shiny completely, because the only thing that changes is the green and the brown underneath, but because the yellow is so dominant on top, when you're running around, that's all you see. I'm giving this shiny a 2 out of 10. Moving on to Flittle's evolution, we have Espathra. Again, why didn't they change anything with the hair? This ostrich Pokemon is meant to be based kind of on Cleopatra, from what I've understood. Why didn't they change the hair from white to black to match Cleopatra? That would have been great. The shiny is a hell of a lot different, and you will definitely spot it in the wild. I just feel like they could have done better with this. I'll give it a 5 out of 10 just because of the differences, and it's easy to spot. Moving on to probably my favourite 3 Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet, and that's Tinkertink. I absolutely loved this Pokemon. I had it on my team, but the shiny is so disappointing. All they've done is updated the hammer that these Pokemon hold from grey to copper. Yes, the diamond in its chest changes as well, but it's so small, you're not even going to notice that. What a disappointment this was. Why didn't they change the whole Pokemon as well? I'm going to give Tinkertink, I'll give it a 3 out of 10. Really disappointed in this shiny. Same with its evolution, Tinkertuff, a 3 out of 10. All you see is its weapon, its hammer change from silver to bronze, 3 out of 10. And the same with Tinkaton. However, I will give Tinkaton an extra point, a 4 out of 10, because its hammer is so massive. The change from silver to bronze is more prominent. Okay, moving on, we have Wiglet, and I love the colour change from Wiglet, from that white to that really bright yellow and the blue nose. This is one of my favourite shinies. I wouldn't say it's the best shiny by all means. I'll give it an 8 out of 10, but I just absolutely love this shiny. Moving on to its evolution, we have Wug Trio, going from that really bright pink to the blue. It's kind of changed colours with the Wiglet, right? So it's gone from that blue face to the yellow nose, whereas Wiglet was the other way around. I wouldn't say it was as good as Wiglet in my opinion, so I'm going to bump Wug Trio down to a 7 out of 10. Okay, next up is Bombardier, and I know what I've said throughout this video, like I like the big changes from the normal to the shiny, and Bombardier really doesn't change that much, but there's just something about it going from that pink to the grey. It really just, I don't know, I love it to pieces. It's not the best shiny by all means. I'll probably give it a 7 out of 10, but from me, it's probably one of my favourites, which is weird why I'm not ranking it 10 out of 10. Don't ask me why. I'll give it a 7 out of 10 because it's not a massive change, but it is definitely one of my top shinies of Paldean. Okay, moving on to Pokemon's first ever Dolphin Pokemon. They said it couldn't be done, and here we go. We have Finizen. Disappointed is probably the word I'd use. I've shiny hunted this, and it was quite difficult to spot the difference when you have like bloody 20 of them all swimming around. I'll give Finizen a 2 out of 10. It was quite disappointed. I would have liked to have seen like a really bright pink or something like that. On to Finizen's evolution, we have Palafin, and again, really, like, nothing changes. Nothing changes. In actual fact, I hate this Pokemon. They went from Finizen to Palafin. The biggest change was what? A heart on its belly? I know we have something called, is this hero mode or something like that? And the shiny for that is definitely amazing. But this whole Pokemon, I hate it. I really do. The shiny for its hero mode is really good. But I can't even remember what I gave Finizen. Was it a 2? If anything, I'll give this a 2. But hero mode, I'll bump up to maybe a 4. We then have the engine Pokemon Varoom. I really like this shiny going from that silver to the gold. It's really obvious when you're looking for it in the wild. I'll give this a 7 out of 10. There isn't really much to say. The gold is nice. But apart from that, 7 out of 10. Coming up onto its evolution. And again, nothing really to say here. It goes from that silver to the gold. It's a nice solid 7 out of 10. Then have Cyclizer, which is kind of like the present day form of Miraidon and Koraidon. And I don't know. I feel like the shiny in-game looks better than Cerebi's picture here. I'm not sure where they've got this image from because it looks disgusting. I'm sure it's more cream and more white in-game, right? But they could have done a lot more with this Pokemon, I feel like. In actual fact, they could have done a lot more with Cyclizer. If you look at this Pokemon, when people have Cyclizer in this game, they've got like seats and handlebars and everything like that. They really were able to customize it. I really wish they'd brought that into this game. But this Pokemon was quite disappointed and really fucking irritating when it's driving around in the wild. As for its shiny, I'm going to give this a 3. Yes, there is a difference when you see it in the wild, but it's quite disgusting. Orthworm. I love this shiny. It's really like when you're running around the desert and you see all the red Orthworm and then suddenly BAM! You see that blue one and you run straight to it. Absolutely fantastic. In my experience anyway. I'll give this a good 8 out of 10. We then move on to Glimmet. I haven't seen this Pokemon much in the wild. I think I caught 1 or 2 for the evolution for the Pokedex. But apart from that, the shiny, it's okay. There's really not that much to say about it. I'd say a 4 out of 10. It's okay. We then have its evolution, Glimmora. I think Glimmora's shiny is better than Glimmet just because it's bigger and you can definitely see the difference more. I'd probably say a 5 out of 10. Really not much more to say about Glimmora. We then have Greavard, and I love this shiny. It's really great. It's kind of gone more to its more realistic, almost like Labrador looking colours, and I really, really like that. It definitely stands out. However, unless you run up to them and you get them to come out of the ground or the snow where they're hiding, it's hard to know if they're shiny just because the candle on top of its head is the same. I'll give this a 6 out of 10. I really like it, but it's a difficult one to spot. We then have Houndstone, which is really disappointing, going from its pre-evolution to its evolution, and the colours don't pop as much. So we gave Greavard a 6 out of 10, but I'm going to bring Houndstone down to a 4 out of 10. Shiny really, really messed up with this one. We then have Flamigo, which it just goes down to almost a really pale pink. It's kind of like a realistic flamingo. I don't know, because I know, don't they say that flamingos are white or they're not as bright because it's the reason they're so brightly pink is because of the food that they eat. And I can understand Pokemon's decision to go from that bright pink down, but I don't know. They could have done anything else. It's quite hard to notice as well, I feel, when you're out in the wild. I'll give this guy a 3 out of 10. Quite disappointing. We then move on to one of my favourite Pokemon introduced in Scarlet and Violet. We have Toddle. I absolutely love this little guy. The shiny is okay. There is definitely a difference. It's quite hard, I feel, to spot it in the game because when you're running around, especially if it's under a tree, the shadow of the tree makes it look like it's shiny. So you get all excited, run up to it, and it's just a common Toddle. But I do love this Pokemon. I'll give this shiny a 5 out of 10. It's not fantastic, but it's not bad. But then we move on to Toddle's evolution, and we have Sea Titan. Look at that shiny, guys. Wow, absolutely. This is probably my favorite shiny out of the whole dex. This is, for me, a solid 10 out of 10. I love the grey. I love the orange around its eyes. Absolutely phenomenal. Next up is Veluza, aka Prickface, bastard, twat, knobhead. I hate this Pokemon, but I love the shiny. I love the shiny. It's green. It's one of my favorites. But firstly, this guy is a prick. He is... if you've ever outbreaked for this Pokemon, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. He is a menace. I hate him so much. When I got the shiny, I saw the shiny, and I couldn't get to it for 5 minutes. Every time I battled a Veluza, another one was right up my ass, tickling my bloody throat. I might have to cut that, maybe. Anyway, back to the shiny Veluza. As I said with Sprigatito, the green is absolutely phenomenal. I love it. Going from that bright pink to that bright green is absolutely tremendous. I will give this guy, I'd give this guy a 10 out of 10, but I hold a grudge. I'm knocking him down 9 out of 10 for Veluza. Next up is Dondozo. Dondozo? Again, another Pokemon I don't think I've ever said out loud. Dondozo. The shiny is really nice. I did an outbreak for this guy, and you could spot him straight away. I'll give this guy an 8 out of 10. Okay, next up is Tatsugiri, and there are 3 forms for this guy. Form number 1, going from that orange to brown, I really didn't like this. It's so difficult to spot because they're so fucking small and they swim and move so fast. I'm not a fan of this one. However, the pink version going from pink to white, I love this. I think everyone I've spoken to and everyone I've heard talk about Tatsugiri loves that the shiny for the pink one is pure white. Absolutely phenomenal. Then the yellow one. The yellow one is the biggest. What were they thinking? Because they made the yellow shiny form orange. And there really isn't that much difference between the shiny version of the yellow compared to just the normal orange. Yeah, okay, the marks on it are different, but when you're shiny hunting them and they're this tiny and they're swimming around really fast, I think they fucked up a little bit. So the first shiny form, the brown and the orange, I'd give that a 1 out of 10. Pink is a solid 10 out of 10. Absolutely fantastic. And the yellow, I don't even feel like I deserve giving this a 1. I'll give this a 1 out of 10, but really, they fucked up there. They really did. Okay, we're near the end, guys. Annihilate. Again, they kind of, I don't know, it's not great. I'm not sure how easy it would be to spot in the wild if it was shiny or not. Maybe in-game the colours are more vibrant. Not my favourite shiny change. I'm going to give this guy a 3 out of 10. Okay, next up is Clodsire, and I've just realised that this page I'm going through on Cerebi has missed some Pokemon. Where the hell was Paldean Wooper? Maybe Wooper didn't count because it's just a Paldean Wooper and not a brand new Pokemon. But moving on, we have Clodsire. I just caught this guy today, actually, in his shiny form, and quite disappointing, going from brown to kind of like a violet, a very, I don't know, very dull purpley violet colour. I'll give this guy a 2 out of 10. And okay, we are missing Girafarig as well because it's not a new Pokemon, so we go straight on to Farigiraf, so that explains why Wooper was missing. Farigiraf, I really love this Pokemon. It kind of takes similar colours to Girafarig in that it's got that blue nose, and it's got that really nice, almost like reddy pinky colour, a really nice shiny change. I'll give this guy a 5 out of 10. Then we have Dunsparce, and I think afterwards is it Dunsparce? Again, the shiny, it really doesn't change from Dunsparce. Apart from being longer, the shiny is exactly the same. I'm calling out Game Freak, you lazy pieces of shit. This Pokemon, the evolution from Dunsparce was quite possibly the biggest disappointment in Pokemon history. Absolute maniacs. They're fucking idiots is what I'm trying to say. I'm giving this guy a 1 out of 10 because they didn't even do anything. They're just so lazy. Now we move on to the Paradox forms. Starting off with the Scarlet Paradox forms, we have Great Tusk. I love this shiny. And just going forward, all of the Scarlet Paradox forms are fucking fantastic compared to the Violet. The Violet ones are so shit. But starting off with Great Tusk, I'll give this guy an 8 out of 10. I absolutely love it. We then have Screamtail. Not the best shiny. It's definitely better than the original Jigglypuff. I think Jigglypuff just the eyes turned green, or are they green and they turn to red? I can't remember. I just remember the Jigglypuff shiny is pretty shit, but Screamtail is nice. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. You then have Brute Bonnet, and apart from, there really isn't that much difference between Brute Bonnet and Among Us, apart from it's got like an emo fringe. The shiny is pretty similar. I'll give this a 2 out of 10. Really, really disappointing. You then have Fluttermane. Again, I am a simp for green shinies. I love this shiny. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. Definitely, probably my favourite Paradox shiny out of them all. Into Slitherwing, and I've seen so many people like drool over this. I don't know why. The shiny is okay. It goes from a red to a yellow. It's not great. I give it a 5 out of 10. It's okay. It's definitely not the best. We then move on to the last Scarlet Paradox form, and it is Sandy Shocks. Pretty crap. Probably the worst out of the past Paradox forms, if you want to call them that. I'll give this a 3 out of 10. From what I've seen, it's quite difficult to see the difference in actual game. Right, now we move on to the Violet Paradox forms, and this is going to be really quick because I'm just going to tell you that all of them are a 1. 1 out of 10. These, like, they fucked up with the shiny forms for all of these futuristic Paradox forms. All they've done is just made them all silver. I mean, look at this Iron Bundle, silver. The original colours are so much better. The same thing with Iron Hands. Unless you're really paying attention, it's quite difficult to see the difference in our Iron Hands. Like, especially when it's in sleep mode, before the yellow, like in the distance, they all look shiny. They all look shiny because they're all silver, and it's not till you get to them that the yellow comes alive. You're like, oh right, okay, it's just not as shiny. 1 out of 10. The same thing with Iron Juggless. It's just shit. Like, they didn't even make his head and his hands silver. It's just crap. 1 out of 10. Iron Moth. This was probably the hardest shiny for me to shiny hunt. Like, it goes from red to silver, but it's so difficult to even spot. Blah, blah, blah. It was so difficult to spot. 1 out of 10. And last but not least is Iron Thorns. Okay, I will admit, maybe I was a bit hasty at the start saying they're all 1 out of 10. Iron Thorns is the best shiny Paradox for Violet. Going from that green to the silver. I don't know. It's not great though. All of them. I think they just got so lazy going from all of the future Paradox forms, just going from their colours to silver. It was really, really bad. I'll give this guy a 2 out of 10 because I'm feeling generous, and it is definitely my favourite out of the future Paradoxes. We then move on to Scarlet and Violet's pseudo-legendary. We have Frigabax. Pure shit. Absolutely shit, right? Going from Dratini, that is like a really nice green. You have the pink, sorry. Dratini and Dragonair and the pink. And then Dragonite going green. The difference is so good. And then you've got this. Like, if you're in a snowstorm in-game trying to shiny hunt this, you're fucked. This is definitely a 1 out of 10. We then have its evolution, Arctibax. And a bit more different. I quite like this, but still not great. Really, there is not really that much difference. I'll give this a 3 out of 10 because I'm feeling generous, but still not great. And then we have the big pseudo-legendary himself, Baxcalibur. This is even worse than the pre-evolution. This is just as bad as Frigabax, whatever his bloody name was, the first one. This is going straight into the 1 out of 10 pile. Really, really disappointing. We have Roaring Moon. And again, not great. The colour is different, but I think because there's so much red still on his wings, that just hides the fact that the shiny is that much difference. I think they could have changed all of the red in its wings and it could have looked absolutely amazing. But they didn't, so I'll give Roaring Moon a 2. No, I'll go up to a 3 out of 10 for Roaring Moon. Last but not least, we have Iron Valiant. And I know I said all the futuristic forms just go straight to silver, but I must admit it works well for Iron Valiant because it's still got that pink in its blades and in its feet and like in the bit of its cloak. They did quite well with this. I would have been happy if it was just this Pokemon they changed to silver and the others they did something else with, but they didn't. But I'll give this guy a 7 out of 10. I quite like this shiny going from that green to the silver, but I'm just glad they kept the pink blades on its arms. Okay, that's it, guys. That is us going through every single Paldean Pokemon's shiny form, rated them out of 1 and 10. Let me know in the comments if you agree or if you definitely disagree with any of the scores that I've given. Maybe you like them more than I do, or maybe I've scored some a little bit too high for your liking. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on the shiny Pokemon. But that's it for now. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon cards, Digimon cards, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet content. And I will catch you on the next one. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.